So when we traveled, we stayed at young people's homes, trying to get a very good impression of what is going on in the European youth generation. And as I said, we have, I don't know if I said it already actually, but we traveled 2 times on 2 grand journeys. The first was about finding out who are the young Europeans, and the second journey was about finding out how can we make changes, how can we influence the development in Europe. So on the first journey we talked to normal and, well, regular and irregular young Europeans, and on the second journey we talked to what we called change makers, but what could also be referred to as activists, so people who succeed in making changes, from being a voluntary worker at Lesbos in the middle of the refugee situation to an activist working for a Europe of nations, like a nationalist activists and other people that we talk to.
What drove you to those journeys?
We were looking around as young people, like around the world, and we were asking what is going on, what is it that we are part of? And then we could see that Europe, with the EU, had a big influence on our lives. But what did we know about EU? Almost nothing. And did we know the Europeans who lived within EU? Not that much. So we thought that in order to find out what is going on and what we should do, how we should participate, how we should influence this part of the world where we live, we had to become more clever about it. And then we decided, instead of studying in the books, we thought, let's travel the continent and meet the young Europeans, and let's get disturbed by their opinions, and let's get surprised by their stories. Well, instead of reading again and again the same angles that journalists have in the media. And of course what we found was surprising and also less depressing than the stories you hear in the media. For example, if you take the lost generation, this idea about the lost generation, in the media they don't get a voice. So that's also what we wanted, to give them a voice. So it was impressive and surprising to see how constructive and activistic the response was from this so-called lost generation. I mean, you don't get the picture inside your head when you hear about the lost generation, that it's a very active, creative generation who imagines another future. But this is at least partly what we found when we met this lost generation. And also, of course, it was surprising, or at least new knowledge that we got from meeting people from the Czech Republic or Slovenia. I mean, we had never met anyone from the Czech Republic or Slovenia before. So that was an enlightening surprise in itself, to meet people and in that way to get to know about who the young Europeans are and what is going on in this continent. But I also found it surprising in a good way that these people from, for example, Spain or the Balkan countries, they were of course very interested in hearing and learning more about what the circumstances are for a young guy like me in Denmark. And in that way we could exchange both opinions but also knowledge about your society and my society. And there is a big difference. I mean, there is a huge difference. And I made this project together with Elena, my partner. We saved up money for 2 years, and then we have traveled Europe and we have made a living out of it. We are not rich because of this project, but that's also not the purpose of it. But my point is just that a project like Our Europe, where we saved up money for 2 years and then we could travel Europe for 12 months, it's only possible for a guy and a girl from Denmark or from Sweden or from Norway. So it's an exception. I mean, we are an exception in that sense. And I think for me that gives me a responsibility. That's how I feel about it. I have a special responsibility because I'm born and raised in such a privileged place in the world.